The evening air felt heavier as I pushed open the door to our modest living room, the familiar scent of home now laced with the tension of the unknown. "Dean?" My voice, steadier than I felt, cut through the silence. No answer. The house seemed to hold its breath as I moved towards the kitchen, the heart of our daily life, now the stage for a revelation that would shatter everything. There, amidst the scattered evidence of a hastily abandoned meal, stood Dean, his back to me, frozen mid-motion. Beside him, Alara, my once trusted friend, her face a poorly masked tableau of guilt and defiance. The scene before me, stark and unambiguous, rendered words unnecessary, yet I found myself demanding, how long? Dean's turn was slow, his usual confidence replaced by a look I couldn't decipher. "Cadence, he started, but the weakness in his voice only fueled my growing storm. Alara spoke next, her tone brazen. "Why act so surprised, Cadence? You must have seen this coming." Her words, sharp and reckless, aimed to wound. The pain of betrayal, deep and acute, threatened to overwhelm me, but I stood my ground. "You were my friend, Alara, and you," I turned to Dean, "you took vows. Our son, our family, do they mean nothing to you?" Dean's attempt at justification fell flat, his excuses sounding hollow even to his own ears. "It's not what you think, Cadence. We just found comfort in each other," I finished for him, my voice cold, my heart colder. "And you thought I wouldn't find out? Thought I'd just accept this?" The confrontation, charged with betrayal and hurt, laid bare the fissures in our lives. Dean, struggling to articulate his rationale, and Alara, defiant in her role as the other woman, represented everything I had to fight against. This was not just a personal betrayal. It was a war on the life we had built, on the promises made in the presence of love and trust. As I stood there, facing the two people who had jointly dismantled my trust, my resolve hardened. This was not the end of my story, but the beginning of my fight. For my dignity, for my son, for the life I deserved beyond the shadows of deceit. "I want you out," I said finally, my voice steady, my decision irrevocable. "Both of you, tonight." Dean's protest was weak, Alara's silence a confirmation of her guilt. As they gathered their things, the weight of the moment settled on me. This was not just a confrontation. It was the first step towards reclaiming my life, towards a future where I no longer played the part of the unsuspecting victim. The door closed behind them with a finality that echoed through the empty house. Alone, yet unbroken, I knew the path ahead would be fraught with challenges. But for the first time in a long time, I felt a flicker of something powerful within me. A determination to rise from the ashes of this betrayal, to forge a new path on my terms. And so, amid the ruins of my fractured life, I began to plan. For justice, for revenge, for a new beginning. The journey ahead would be long, but I was ready. The morning after Dean and Alara's departure, the house felt eerily silent, a void filled with echoes of the confrontation. The silence, however, was a canvas for my determination, a stark reminder of the betrayal and the need for action. I started the day with a purpose, reaching out to Lara, an old friend, and the one person I knew who could help me navigate the legal intricacies of what lay ahead. "Lara, it's Cadence. I need your advice. Legal advice." Her response was immediate, a testament to our enduring friendship. "I'll be there in an hour. We'll figure this out together." As I waited, I couldn't help but replay last night's events, not with sadness, but with a growing sense of empowerment. By the time Lara arrived, I was ready, armed with the facts and fueled by a resolve to seek justice. Lara's expertise was invaluable. "First, we secure your financial stability and custody of your son. Then, we address the betrayal. Dean and Alara cannot just walk away from this unscathed." Her plan was meticulous, a blend of legal strategy and personal vindication. "We'll start by freezing the joint accounts and filing for sole custody. As for Alara, it's time she learns actions have consequences." The strategy session turned into action quickly. Lara's connections expedited the legal proceedings, and within days, Dean found himself confronted with the reality of his choices. "You can't do this, Cadence. You're destroying everything." His voice, once confident, now pleaded over the phone. "This is the bed you made, Dean. Now you lie in it," I responded, my voice void of the affection that once colored our conversations. Alara's reaction was of similar disbelief, her previous arrogance replaced with panic. "Cadence, please, let's talk about this. We can find a way to make things right. There's nothing left to discuss. You both made your choices, And now you face the consequences, I replied, the finality in my voice mirroring the closure I sought. With Lara's help, the legal battles were swift, leaving Dean and Alara reeling from their losses. But revenge was not solely about legal victories. It was about reclaiming my dignity, about showing that betrayal of trust comes at a price. The community's reaction only added to their downfall. Friends and neighbors, once mutual confidants, sided with me, their disdain for Dean and Alara's actions evident in their support and the isolation that followed for the two of them. As the dust settled on the legal confrontations, a new sense of peace began to take root within me. The betrayal that once threatened to define my existence now served as a catalyst for my transformation. I was no longer the victim, but the architect of my destiny, a woman reborn from the ashes of deceit. With the legal battles behind me, the victory felt hollow. The community's support, while comforting, couldn't fill the void left by Dean's betrayal. It was time to rebuild, to focus on my son and the future we deserved. Yet, the shadow of vengeance lingered, a reminder that justice served did not equate to wounds healed. My resolve was tested when I encountered Dean at a mutual friend's gathering. His presence, once familiar and comforting, now sparked a tumult of emotions. "Cadence," he began, his voice tinged with regret. "I'm sorry. I never wanted to hurt you." The sincerity in his eyes tempted me to believe, to forgive. But the scars of betrayal ran deep. "Sorry doesn't change what happened, Dean. You chose this path, not me," I replied, my words laced with the pain and strength forged from the ordeal. The encounter with Dean was a turning point, a realization that while legal revenge had been exacted, emotional closure was elusive. It was a lesson in the complexity of forgiveness, in the distinction between justice served and peace attained. In the weeks that followed, I threw myself into my work and into being a mother. My son, innocent, in the wake of our shattered family, became my anchor, his laughter a balm for my soul. Through him I saw the possibility of a future unmarred by the past, a life rebuilt on the foundation of resilience and love. Yet, the journey of healing was not without its challenges. Alara, undeterred by her fall from grace, sought redemption in the eyes of those who had turned their backs. "Cadence, can we talk?" her message read, a plea for understanding, if not forgiveness. The decision to meet her was not easy. Face to face, the woman who had been my friend, then my betrayer, now sought my mercy. "I was wrong," she admitted, her eyes reflecting the weight of her choices. "I've lost everything, but I've learned. I'm truly sorry." The words I had longed to hear, yet their arrival brought no satisfaction. Forgiveness was a journey, not a destination, a path I was still navigating. "I appreciate your apology, Alara, but I can't undo the past, and I can't erase the pain. Maybe in time we'll both find peace." The days turned into weeks, each one a step further from the past and closer to a future I was still shaping. My world, once defined by the actions of others, now took form around the choices I made for myself and for my son. The legal victories and public vindication had faded into the background, replaced by the quieter, more challenging work of rebuilding from within. My journey was interrupted by an unexpected encounter with Dean at a community event. This time, his approach was hesitant, respectful of the distance I had put between us. "Cadence, I've been doing a lot of thinking," he started, his voice carrying a sincerity I hadn't heard before. "I know I can't change the past, but I'm here, trying to be a better person for our son." The mention of our child, the innocent caught in the crossfire of our decisions, softened the hard edges of my resolve. "He deserves the best of both of us," I admitted, the shared love for our son a bridge over the chasm of our past. This acknowledgement marked a shift, a door opening to the possibility of co-parenting with grace, if not friendship. The dialogue between us, once charged with anger and accusation, now treaded the delicate terrain of cooperation and mutual respect for the sake of the child who needed us both. In this new chapter, the antagonist of my story was no longer Dean or Alara, but the bitterness that threatened to poison my future. The realization that forgiveness was not a gift to those who wronged me, but a liberation for myself, began to take root. The process was neither easy nor immediate. There were days when the hurt resurfaced, a reminder of the scars that would never fully disappear. Yet, with each passing day, the choice to forgive, to release the hold of past grievances, became a little easier, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Amidst this personal evolution, a surprising ally emerged in Lara. Her unwavering support had been my anchor through the storm, and now she offered wisdom on the journey of forgiveness. Holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die, she reminded me one afternoon. Forgiveness is for you, Cadence. It's the path to peace. Her words echoed in my heart, a mantra for the days when the weight of the past felt too heavy. And so I leaned into the discomfort, embracing the complex, often messy process of healing and forgiveness. The landscape of my life, once marred by betrayal and hurt, was slowly reshaping into something new, something hopeful. The process of forgiveness had led me down a path of unexpected growth, teaching me that even in the wake of devastation there can be renewal. In this new chapter, I found myself taking steps towards a future I had once thought impossible. My days were filled with the laughter of my son, the support of friends, and the satisfaction of personal achievements. The shadow of Dean and Ilara's betrayal had not disappeared, but had faded into the background, a part of my past that no longer defined me. An opportunity for a fresh start presented itself in the form of a new job, one that promised not just financial stability, but a chance to pursue my passions. "This is your moment, Cadence," Lara encouraged me the day I received the offer. "You've earned this." The decision to accept was easy, propelled by the desire to provide for my son and to prove to myself that I could rise above the challenges that had once threatened to consume me. "We're going to make a great life, just you and me," I whispered to my son, his small hand in mine, a symbol of our unbreakable bond. But life, as it often does, had more lessons in store for me. Dean's attempt to re-enter our lives, not as a partner but as a father seeking redemption, tested the boundaries of forgiveness I had worked so hard to establish. "I don't want to disrupt your lives, I just want to be a part of his," Dean said during one of our cautious, awkward meetings, gesturing towards our son. The complexity of emotions his request evoked was a reminder of the delicate balance between forgiveness and self-preservation. Yet, watching my son's tentative interactions with Dean, I recognized the value of reconciliation, not for Dean's sake, but for the innocent child who deserved to know his father. This period of adjustment was not without its challenges. There were moments of doubt, of fear that opening this door would invite back the pain I had fought so hard to overcome. But there were also moments of unexpected joy, of witnessing the tentative rebuilding of a relationship between father and son, grounded in cautious hope rather than blind trust. As the seasons changed, so too did the fabric of our lives, weaving a tapestry of resilience, forgiveness, and cautious optimism. The new job had not only brought financial stability, but also a renewed sense of self-worth and purpose. My son thrived in this environment of love and security, his laughter a constant reminder of why every struggle was worth enduring. However, life's narrative is seldom without conflict, and it wasn't long before a new challenge emerged, one that would test the strength of the fragile peace we had built. Ilara, having navigated her own journey of loss and self-reflection, sought to re-enter our lives, not as a friend or foe, but as someone seeking closure and possibly redemption. "Cadence, I know I have no right to ask anything of you, but I need to make amends," she said during an unexpected encounter at a mutual acquaintance's gathering. The emotions her presence stirred were complex, a mixture of old wounds reopening and the recognition of shared human frailty. Her request for forgiveness, while sincere, demanded a level of magnanimity that felt almost insurmountable. Yet, in the spirit of the growth and healing I had committed to, I found myself willing to listen, if not fully ready to absolve. The dialogue between us was hesitant, each word measured, a dance around the pain of the past and the uncertainty of the future. "I don't know if I can ever fully forgive you, Ilara, but I'm willing to try to understand," I responded, acknowledging the power of forgiveness to heal not just the recipient, but the giver as well. This encounter, though fraught with emotional landmines, paved the way for a new understanding. Forgiveness, I realized, was not an erasure of the past, but a means of liberating oneself from the chains of bitterness and resentment. In the midst of navigating these personal upheavals, a surprise development at work offered an unexpected opportunity for advancement, a testament to my hard work and dedication. Cadence, your leadership and innovation have not gone unnoticed. We'd like you to lead the new project, my supervisor announced, recognition that filled me with pride and reaffirmed my belief in my abilities and in the promise of new beginnings. The calm that had settled over my life was deceptive, a brief respite before the next storm. Just as I had begun to navigate the complexities of forgiveness and the challenges of my new role at work, an unexpected development threatened to upend the delicate balance I had achieved. A legal notice arrived without warning, a stark reminder that the past was not as far behind as I had hoped. Dean, motivated by a desire to reassert himself in our son's life, was challenging the custody arrangement. "I just want to be a part of his life, Cadence. I'm not the same man I was," he pleaded over the phone, his words echoing a sentiment I had heard before, yet underpinned by a desperation I hadn't seen in him. The battle lines were drawn once again, not in the courts of law this time, but in the arena of personal conviction and the unresolved tensions that lingered between us. "Our son needs stability, Dean. Your actions have consequences," I responded, the firmness in my voice belying the turmoil within. This new challenge forced me to confront not just Dean, but my own fears and uncertainties about the future. The prospect of revisiting old wounds, of fighting once more for what I believed was right for my son, was daunting. In the midst of this upheaval, Alara reached out, her timing impeccable. "I know we've had our differences, Cadence, but I'm here if you need someone to talk to," she offered, a gesture that, months ago, I would have dismissed outright. Yet, the journey we had both embarked on towards healing and understanding had shifted the dynamics between us. "Thank you, Alara. I appreciate that," I found myself saying, surprised by my own willingness to accept her olive branch. As the days passed, the tension surrounding the custody challenge grew. Meetings with lawyers and mediators became a routine part of my life, each encounter with Dean a test of my resolve and a measure of how far we had both come, and how far we still had to go. The dialogue between us was fraught with the weight of our shared history, each word a testament to the complex web of emotions that bound us. "I'm not trying to take him away from you, Cadence. I just want to be a part of his life," Dean insisted, his plea a mix of sincerity and desperation. The resolution, when it came, was not a victory for one side or the other, but a compromise, a mutual agreement to put our son's needs above our own grievances. "We'll make it work for his sake," I conceded, recognizing the value of co-parenting in a way that provided our son with the love and support of both his parents, even if from a distance.
I sat quietly beside the bed, watching Emily, my wife, as she rested. She was overdue, and each day seemed to stretch endlessly, a quiet anticipation hanging in the air. "Emily," I whispered, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. She stirred, her eyes slowly opening. "How long have you been sitting there?" she asked, her voice tinged with sleep. "Long enough to remember why I fell in love with you," I replied, trying to infuse some lightness into the moment. She smiled, but it was shadowed with unease. "I just wish Margaret would let us have these last few days to ourselves," she said, a hint of frustration in her tone. Margaret, my mother-in-law, had always been a thorn in our side, particularly for Emily. I had witnessed her harsh treatment and unkind words towards Emily over the years, each incident casting a long shadow over our lives. "I spoke to her yesterday," I said, recalling the difficult conversation. "Told her we needed space, especially with the baby coming. The midwife was clear about the stress being bad for both of you." Emily's expression tightened. "And how did she take it?" "About as well as you'd expect. But I was firm. This time is about us, our new family." Her hand found mine, her grip tight. "Thank you," she said, her eyes moist. "I just can't handle her right now, not with the baby so close." "I know," I reassured her, holding her hand firmly. "I'll take care of it." We sat together, the unspoken history of Margaret's behavior between us. From demeaning comments to more overt acts of hostility, the impact on Emily was profound. But in that moment, with the gentle morning light around us, I felt a renewed determination. I was ready to protect Emily and our soon-to-be-born child, no matter what it took. As Emily fell back into a light sleep, my thoughts were interrupted by the sound of a car outside. Peering through the window, my heart sank at the sight of Margaret's car in the driveway. She had come uninvited, as was her habit. Taking a deep breath, I stood up, It was time to confront what lay ahead. As I descended the stairs to confront Margaret, my mind raced back through the years, replaying the myriad of ways she had inflicted pain upon Emily. It was like flipping through a dark photo album, each memory a snapshot of cruelty. Emily was 16 when I first met her. Even then, Margaret's shadow loomed large over her life. I remember a high school dance where Emily's hair had been roughly chopped off, an uneven bob that she tried to hide under a hat. "Mom thought it would look better short," she had whispered to me, her eyes downcast. That was Margaret, always asserting control, even over Emily's appearance. The abuse wasn't just physical. It was the constant gaslighting, the relentless undermining of Emily's reality. Margaret, aided by David and Alex, would spin tales, weaving false narratives that left Emily questioning her own sanity. They were a united front against her, a family that seemed to relish in her confusion and pain. One particular incident stood out in my mind. It was a family dinner, a supposed celebration of Emily's promotion at work. Instead of congratulations, Margaret had spent the evening belittling Emily's achievements, comparing her unfavorably to Alex, the golden child. "You might have a fancy job, but Alex has real skills," she had said, her words dripping with disdain. It was more than just words. There were the unannounced visits, the unwanted gifts that felt more like invasions, the blatant disrespect of our space and privacy. They would sneak into our house when we were out, going through our things, leaving a trail of discomfort and unease in their wake. Their treatment of Alex was a stark contrast. Nearly 40, he lived a life devoid of responsibility or consequences, his every need catered to by Margaret. He was a bully, both physically and verbally abusive, not just to Emily, but to his own parents. Yet, in Margaret's eyes, he could do no wrong. These memories fueled my resolve as I opened the front door. Margaret stood there, her expression one of feigned concern. "Margaret," I greeted her, my tone measured. "What brings you here today?" "I just wanted to see how Emily is doing. You know, with the baby coming and all," she said, her voice dripping with insincerity. "I've told you, Emily needs rest and space. Your visits are stressing her out." Margaret's face twisted into a scowl. "I'm her mother. I have every right to be here." "Not when your presence is harmful." "We've discussed this," I said, standing firm. She huffed, her eyes flashing with anger. "You're keeping me from my daughter and my grandchild." "I'm protecting my family, Margaret. That's my right." As she turned and stormed off, I knew this was far from over. But for now, I had drawn a line, one that I hoped would shield Emily and our child from the shadows of her family's past. The days following my confrontation with Margaret were tense, filled with a silence that was both welcome and foreboding. Emily, sensing the undercurrents, often asked if everything was all right. Each time I assured her it was, not wanting to add to her stress. But the truth was, things were far from all right. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were on the edge of something inevitable and potentially explosive. Margaret's visits had stopped, but her presence loomed like a dark cloud over our home. One afternoon, while Emily rested upstairs, I heard a knock at the door. Bracing myself for another round with Margaret, I was surprised to find David standing there, his eyes downcast. "Can we talk?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I nodded, leading him into the living room. The tension was palpable as he sat down, his hands fidgeting in his lap. "It's about Alex," he began, his voice strained. "Margaret doesn't see it, but he's out of control." I listened, my heart heavy, as David recounted recent incidents of Alex's aggression. He spoke of unprovoked outbursts, of physical altercations that left both him and Margaret bruised and shaken. It was a side of Alex I had seen glimpses of, but never to this extent. "He needs help," David concluded, his eyes meeting mine. "But Margaret won't hear of it. She says we're imagining things, that Alex is just spirited." The revelation was jarring, yet not entirely surprising. The family's denial of Alex's behavior, their refusal to acknowledge the damage he caused, was a pattern long established. "I agree, he needs help," I said. "But if Margaret won't see it—" David nodded, a look of resignation on his face. "I just thought you should know, for Emily's sake." After he left, I sat alone, processing the conversation. The situation was more complex than I had realized. It wasn't just Margaret's treatment of Emily. It was the entire family dynamic, a toxic environment that enabled and excused Alex's behavior. I knew then that protecting Emily and our child meant more than just keeping Margaret at bay. It meant acknowledging the brokenness of her family and perhaps accepting that some fractures were beyond repair. That night, as I lay beside Emily, her hand resting on her swollen belly, I felt a resolve harden within me. Whatever it took, I would shield them from the storm that was brewing, even if it meant cutting ties with a family that was drowning in its own dysfunction. In the days that followed the family gathering, Emily and I talked long into the nights, unraveling the years of manipulation and control exerted by her family. It was a painful process, each conversation unearthing more of the buried trauma she had endured. One evening, as we sat in the living room, Emily's phone buzzed with a message. It was from her cousin, someone we rarely heard from. The text was brief but jarring. "Heard what happened at the dinner. I'm sorry. You deserve better." This simple message from an unexpected source was like a small crack in a dam, and slowly the truth began to seep through. Over the next few days, more messages arrived, each one shedding light on the false narratives that Margaret and her family had spun about us. "We always wondered why you seemed so distant at family events," one read. "I heard your mom talking about how difficult you were, but it never added up," said another. Each message was a revelation, peeling back the layers of deceit we had been enmeshed in. It became increasingly clear that Margaret's influence extended far beyond what we had imagined, tainting our relationships and reputation within the wider family. The most damning revelation came from an unexpected source. David, in a rare moment of candor, confided in me about the extent of Alex's hold over the family. "He's threatened us, you know," David admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "If we don't do as he says, he becomes violent. We're afraid of him." This confession was a chilling insight into the dysfunction at the heart of Emily's family. Alex, enabled and protected by Margaret, had become a tyrant in his own home, his actions unchecked and excused. As these truths came to light, Emily's resolve hardened. "We can't be part of this anymore," she said one night, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. "It's not just about us now, it's about our child. I won't let them grow up in the shadow of this madness." I held her close, my own emotions a tumult of anger, sadness, and protective fierceness. "We'll start anew," I promised. "We'll build our own family, free from all this." The decision to cut ties with her family was not an easy one for Emily, but it was necessary. We began the process of disentangling our lives from theirs, each step a move towards freedom and healing. As we prepared for the birth of our child, I felt a weight lifting from our shoulders. We were stepping out of the shadows into a future we would shape on our own terms. The day our child was born was a day of mixed emotions. As I held our baby for the first time, looking into those innocent eyes, I felt a surge of love and protectiveness unlike anything I had ever known. But lurking in the back of my mind was the knowledge of the confrontation that awaited us. Emily, exhausted but radiant, cradled our baby gently. "We did it," she whispered, her eyes shining with tears. "We have our family now." I nodded, my heart swelling with pride and love. But as we basked in the joy of our new arrival, I couldn't shake the feeling of impending conflict. Margaret had made it clear she expected to be a part of our child's life, but after everything, that was impossible. In the days that followed, as we adjusted to our new life, the reality of our situation became increasingly clear. Margaret's attempts to insert herself into our lives intensified. She called repeatedly, each message a mix of sweet talk and veiled threats. The final straw came one afternoon when we found a pile of gifts outside our door, all from Margaret. Among them was a note, "To my grandchild, who I will see, no matter what." That night, Emily and I sat down and made the decision. We would go completely no contact with her family. It was the only way to protect our child and ourselves from the cycle of abuse and manipulation. The process was painful, filled with legal consultations and emotional discussions. But with each step, I felt a sense of liberation, as if we were shedding the weight of years of oppression. As I watched Emily with our baby, her laughter free and unburdened, I knew we had made the right choice. We were starting anew, creating a family built on love, respect, and safety. Our journey was not without its challenges. There were moments of doubt, of fear that we had severed ties with the only family Emily had ever known. But in those moments, we found strength in each other and in the love we had for our child. We moved to a new home, a place untainted by the past. Here, in this space of our own making, we began to heal. Our child grew, surrounded by love and free from the shadows that had once loomed so large. In this new dawn, we found peace. We had stepped out of the darkness and into a future of our own choosing. Our family, though small, was a fortress against the turmoil we had left behind. As I looked at Emily and our child, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. We had weathered the storm, and in its wake, we had found something precious, a life of our own, filled with hope and endless possibilities.